Estuary drain.
Vicky, all the work on this.
I know.
It is.
I know. That's why I let her move it.
Yeah.
And thanks to Kevin for all of it.
Estuary drain concept design. You want to take us through this?
Yes, thank you very much. We do have a short presentation if you'd prefer, or we can, if everyone's read the report, we could just talk through the questions.
We like presentations.
Yeah.
She especially loves ones on drains.
Especially from you,
Yeah, especially drains.
I'll just take a minute to copy it over.
Vicky laughs like one, so...
I find them very draining.
Pretty draining.
I think these reports are quite draining.
You would say.
I withdraw and apologise.
They flush out all the bad jokes, Paul.
They send you out of the room.
That means you take over.
Put you under pressure, April.
I'm happy to take the wee penance and leave you to it.
No.
There's a soup mob going.
Stay there for the drains.
Flush her out. Flush her out.
Flush you out, yeah.
Drained of the will to live. Oh yes, that's the expression again.
Right, okay, so I think, sorry about the delay there. I think we've got the presentation ready to go. So Estuary Drain is a land drainage recovery programme project, and one of the things that we've been looking at through all the investigations for these works is to look at repair options and remediation options together with any enhancement options. The objective of the land drainage recovery programme is to return flood risk to pre-quake levels. So Tom, I think will just take us through some just a few slides very quickly.
Sure. Thank you very much. We investigated those sort of three options inside the investigation for the land drainage recovery program into Estuary Drain. Now, Estuary Drain is located in the Aranui to Bexley area and takes flows from Pages Road and Breezes Road down out to the estuary via just upstream of Bridge Street. We come up with the preferred option, which is repairing the Breezes Road drain and some limited remediation. So that remediation's extending the pipe network and widening the drain to a small extent. We found with our works that full remediation of this catchment was going to be very expensive, and we looked for other options which were more cost effective. We know in this catchment from our modelling work that there aren't any houses at significant or high risk of frequent flooding. This catchment's elevated above the adjacent Knights Drain catchment, which is much lower and been the subject of previous reports. Looking at a flood map, you can see the flood risk is in pockets in the catchment. That circled area indicates the downstream end of Estuary Drain and the Breezes Road drain. And we're targeting a little pocket of flooding there on Breezes Road to the very bottom of that picture. And the reason we're targeting that is because that's the location of the known floor risk flooding and more extreme events, the sort of 2% exceedance event. So a 2% chance of that event occurring in any given year. And when inside our investigations, we look at the pre-quake flood risk and the post-quake flood risk and look at the change. Now, as you can see on the slide, the number of floors or foundations that underfloor flooding or foundation at risk in this catchment is reasonably high at 120 before the earthquake and 134 after. But there's very few houses at risk of above floor flooding that we estimate from combining our flood hazard results and the floor level survey results. Now, we had 4 pre-quake and 4 post-quake, but they're not the same 4. There's two houses that have actually been improved by the earthquakes and 2 new ones that have come on. So it's those 2 new ones that have come on that is the target of that limited remediation work. Stepping back a step, in the investigations we did look at a wide range of options before we came to our preferred one. We looked at 11 options originally and narrowed that down to these 4 concepts that we progressed. The image you can see up on that slide is the current condition of that drain. Notionally it's about 1 metre wide before the earthquake, so you can see the amount of damage that it's suffered. In terms of that limited remediation option, that drain is to be replaced, shown in blue up there on the slide, plus upsizing some pipe network. The replacement of the drain's about 170 odd metres. The upsizing the pipes similar length, and then extending the network in the brown there, either as a pipe beneath the ground or a surface swale. The options for rebuilding the drain will be considered further at the next design stage. Whether or not we can naturalise it will be considered rather than a timberline drain replacement, noting that there's some services down there. There's 11 kV cable which could limit other more naturalised options. So how did we come to this preferred option? Well, as I say, it targets the 2 floors that have been exacerbated with flood risk, and it comes at a relatively small cost compared to full remediation in the catchment. So there's full remediation options were considerably more expensive because they included pump stations and upsizing pipe network right up through the catchment. And you can see from this slide that the costs for those sort of options were quite high. Those other options did address the underfloor flooding to a greater degree, or foundation flooding to a greater degree. We did present these options to the community board after the report was written on the 7th of this month, and we presented this presentation essentially, and they had expressed some concern about underfloor flooding and said that it was still a concern in that community and of the residents, but they felt that they could support the preferred option given the significant increases in cost with the other options. They did, however, state that if there were other options, maybe between the limit of remediation and the full remediation at some intermediate cost, they might have preferred those, but we haven't actually identified any options in those sort of extents. Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Yanni?
Yeah, thank you. Just help me understand that table that you've got. So before the earthquake, 120 properties were at risk of underfloor foundation.
That's right.
So with repair and limited remediation, we're basically 10 properties total for $1.8 million we're making an improvement for. Is that?
So yeah, in that sort of order, plus we're really targeting the 2 floors that are at risk of above floor flooding, but noting that repair cost is something that we're going to have to do anyway. That drain has been significantly damaged and isn't functioning, so we need to invest that sort of money just to reinstate the network to what it was. So that's probably more akin to the incremental cost between that and the repair option can be attributed to that.
So have we
benefit.
Done a sort of cost benefit around acquiring the properties that are most at risk?
We did actually talk about that. That was something the community board raised a very similar question. Our response at that stage was that the remediation options provide a wider community benefit. We get better drainage of the streets and the adjoining properties. So rather than focusing on just the direct benefits to those 2 properties, you get a wider community benefit with the drainage works being enacted. A full cost benefit analysis we haven't undertaken.
Right. And then just I recall from the community meetings over the flooding in this area, one of the concerns was that skirt repairs had made the situation worse because the water following the skirt repairs was draining into people's properties. Has that been addressed through this work?
Well, we do have drawings of the skirt works that have been enacted. They've enacted some pipe repairs and installed flat gates and did install a bund along the backs of these properties to hold out the tide. In terms of investigating, we have relied on the skirt design work to prove the efficacy of those works. We haven't re-investigated them per se.
I mean, I don't know if this is the specific area, but at that community meeting at the Wainoni Methodist Church, a number of people got up and said the flooding issues in this kind of Aranui area were exacerbated post-skirt repairs to the streets. So I just, think it would be good to have some kind of assessment of if that's been looked at, because it, obviously the design hopefully will make things better, not worse.
Sure. So those skirt works in this particular catchment aren't on the streets; they're sort of on the drain downstream of the works that we're proposing. So I'm not sure if that.
So you think it's another area that
it might be a separate area that was that concern, but we can certainly go back
and Skirt's brief, just for repairs, like for like repairs, so they didn't go beyond that in order to solve additional street flooding or other problems. So it might be that the perception that's been made worse, but it might just be that that was an existing problem that just became more noticeable following the skirt repairs. Without investigating, I can't say, but certainly it wasn't within skirt brief to go beyond simple repair.
Yeah, but they made the levels, apparently, according to the committee, the levels were...
I think that we've heard that this is a different catchment, so is that right?
Adjoining, as I mentioned before, that the skirt works are downstream of what we're proposing and not on the roads. We could, we can pick up a conversation with Skirt and just confirm that they haven't affected street flooding in this area, but I'd be surprised if their works had.
Yeah, I just think it'd be, in terms of reporting back to people who came to that meeting, and just giving them some reassurance that we've looked at the repairs and we've looked at the solution. And we
So what meeting are you talking about?
the flooding meetings that were held in the different communities.
Is it after March 2014?
Yeah, the flooding meeting that was held in the Wainoni Methodist Church. It's Methodist Church.
Wainoni Methodist Church, it's miles away.
No, that was the meeting for the flooding issues for this area. That's the meeting that people were invited to.
And that's back in 2014, after the
that's right.
floods.
Yep.
And it was
that
skirt
meeting?
repairs that had been done before
People-
2014.
Yeah, people got up and said, yes, that they had noticed an increase in flooding, and it was something to do with the levels or the way the designs had been done in terms of fixing the infrastructure. They had put the flooding going into their properties rather than draining away properly.
So this is going back to before 2014, skirt repairs.
I presume you're referring to the workshops that were held as part of the Mural Flood Task Force?
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
rolling that out. So we did.
Okay, so we can find out what was said
I
at
can
those
check my own
meetings.
notes from
Yeah,
those
cool.
meetings. I
That's great.
was at
Yeah,
that meeting, and I can
yeah.
double check that stuff and
Okay, that'd be
respond,
great.
presumably by the.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. Just that gap in terms of what appears to be the gap between in the benefit cost ratio between options 1 and 2. Is that mainly down to, if you go to option 2, putting in a pump station and the rising main, that probably accounts for that, and then on to, okay.
Yeah, the vast majority of the difference is the pump station rising
Yeah.
main works. But in addition, the if I flick back to the inundation map here, we're targeting the downstream end of the catchment with the preferred option rather than getting all the way up into the catchment. So the later options have a wider benefit, but it really is the benefit for underfloor flooding rather than above floor flooding that seems.
And then I just had a quick question over 6.10 on page 171 over community input. There's been a lot of intensive, prolonged roadworks nearby in Breezes Road. The residents appear to have been quite patient, but I'm aware it's fairly stretched. So when it comes to community consultation, taking them on board, have you got some high-level approaches at this point?
As you can see from the proposed works here, we're not planning on enacting any works on the road itself.
No, I
and most
know,
of it will
but
be
it's still that area
behind,
in the context.
Yeah, we'll certainly have to go and talk with this pocket of the community in here, particularly in the area, the properties beside that brown line, because that's where a new network is proposed, and it is likely to require easements. So we'll need buy-in from this community to get this work through, but I hope that they'll be favourable for the works, because it is the people who are being impacted are those who are directly benefiting from it. That said, at worst we may have to.
I think if we can get that right, they've had to absorb a fair bit lately with roadworks. So
they've been there a while.
Yes.
Anyone else? So, would someone like to move the staff recommendation?
I'll move it.
Ali, seconded Phil.
Pauline.
Pauline.
Oh, sorry.
Is that the other twin?
I thought it was you who said it. I actually did get the right
Yeah, we got
person
Pauline
this
Jones.
time. I just heard the wrong person. Sorry, and it's not the staff, it's the infrastructure, transport and environment
Tell us
committee
about the heat.
recommendation. So that's been moved and seconded, Pauline and Phil, and I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation as well.